It seems like the Pittsburgh Pirates are taking a page right out of the Oakland A's playbook and starting their own sell the team campaign. I have Ethan Smith today from Locked On Pirates joining us to discuss.
You are Locked On A's, your daily Oakland A's podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On A's and Locked On Pirates, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it is your team every day. I am your host, Booney, and Ethan Smith from Locked On Pirates. Episodes will drop now 3 days a week, generally Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. That's Oakland time, Vegas time, and yes, Sacramento time. If you are on your way to work, driving back from work, or listening casually during the day, thank you for making Locked On A's and Locked On Pirates your first listen of the day. I'm from the Bay Area and I've been a diehard fan since '81. I'm here to bring you a real fans take, covering everything from Oakland, Sacramento, and Las Vegas. This is the place for A's fans to get the latest game breakdowns, team news, and more. This is where the passion of the fans take center stage. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts, including YouTube. And please, whether it's Locked On Pirates or Locked On A's, hit that subscribe button wherever you are following the show. This episode is brought to you in part by the college football playoffs. The college football playoffs is here, and you don't want to miss a moment of the action. The college football playoff presented by Allstate. There's Ethan with his Bulldogs.
Yes, sir, baby. We are here again, the villains of college football. Definitely not selling the team in college football, Booney.
They are not selling this team. There might be more. They might be spending more money than the A's and Pirates are combined, though. 4 first-round games open up on Friday, December 20th, and go on December 21st on ESPN, ABC, TNT, and Cinemax. I believe the state of Pennsylvania has the Nittany Lions also participating. So it should be interesting. Who is your prediction, Ethan?
As far as all the games, or just who's winning it all?
Who's getting to the Final Four?
The Final Four?
Yes.
Oregon, Texas, Penn State, Georgia.
Okay.
We'll just go quick hitter on that one.
And who's going to win it?
Georgia, of course. I mean, come on. Kirby doesn't lose in these spots. I don't see Alabama in the dance, Booney. I don't see them in there anywhere.
They are not in the dance, that's for sure, man. All right. Aside from college football, let's talk a little baseball. A lot of similarities between our franchises, and as I have discovered, it looks like the Pirates are going through their own sell the team campaign.
Yep.
They may hate their owner as much as the A's hate their owner. That's going to be difficult, but it's getting there. Tell me what's going on with the Pirates, the frustration, what they want, Bob Nutting himself, so forth.
Yeah, so throughout the year, you kind of heard some things that there were rumblings about a ad campaign that was going to go against Bob Nutting. And obviously, during the season, you're not as worried about it. We were kind of more worried about, oh, wait, this team's actually buying at the deadline a little bit in August. Things trail down. They end up with the same record they had in 2023 while adding Jared Jones and Paul Skeens and a full year of O'Neal Cruz and a multitude of other things. Nobody really is gone from the coaching staff or the front office outside of Andy Haynes, the hitting coach, and some other international scouts and, those numerous firings that you see when these things happen. But then billboards start popping up all over Pittsburgh about saying, okay, this is not Bob Nutting's team. This is our team. Now, this has just been a long-standing rivalry between the Pirates and their fans and Bob Nutting, because of this really the same problem that the Oakland A's have and the Miami Marlins have and the Kansas City Royals for a long time have had, and a lot of these small market teams where you're not spending a lot of money. Now, there's a lot of different factors that go into this. There's a ton of different things that go into this, but you were kind of talking about it already about the onset of the show before we even started. And I wanted to add to a point that I'll then bring up, but I want to add to it is you look at these two franchises in particular, Booney, very storied franchises all across the board. I mean, just look at your background, for instance, Dennis Eckersley and Ricky Henderson, two of the more memorable guys that you would ever look at in the sport of baseball, period. You then come over to Pittsburgh and you look at guys like Dave Parker, who just got in the Hall of Fame at winter meetings, Roberto Clemente, who was a trailblazer for all of South American baseball. You look at now having Paul Skeens, a generational rookie who knows how long he's here based off of the conversation that we're literally having. But these are storied franchises that since I've been alive at 26 years old, they just really haven't been at the mountaintop in a while. And there is some kind of comparison to this with the amount of money that they're spending. And I think that's why people in Oakland, now Sacramento, and then eventually Vegas are very upset. And in Pittsburgh, especially when we have news that the payroll is going to exceed 100 million, folks, that shouldn't be news. It just shouldn't be news in the grand scope of things and how this sport works. And I think that's why the frustration continues to boil over, and I don't know when it's going to stop.
Question. Now, one thing the Pirates have done that the A's have not done is sign guys to long-term extensions. Brian Hayes, Keller. You just signed, I believe, Brian Reynolds. I believe he was last year they signed him, but he's on a long extension as well. It looks like they're making efforts, right? Their idea is kind of, hey, they're taking the young prospects, signing them to long year deals, hence they're going to be a bargain. Is any of that getting recognized, or is it just still, I mean, are people just looking at the total dollar amount saying, hey, they're not spending, we're not winning, etc.?
I think it's really the fan base appreciates it at the time with the Keller, Hayes, and Reynolds things. Like,
Right.
For me, I think it's a big deal. This is not something that the Pirates have been accustomed to doing a lot of times. We all know the age-old jokes that, oh, we're just the Yankees and the Dodgers farm system until they reach arbitration, and then we trade them to the bigger markets.
Sure.
They didn't do that with Keller. They didn't do that with Reynolds when they had every ample opportunity to trade Brian Reynolds. We remember that saga, and it was probably about half of my tenure at Locked On was talking about Brian Reynolds getting traded somewhere. And then Mitch Keller was another big one. And I think Keller of the three was the biggest one because Keller was at one time.
He's an all-star. Yeah.
Yeah. At one time, he was one of the worst pitchers in baseball and builds himself up to this, gets the opening day nod, and they hold on to him. So I think the battle that's going on with a lot of the fan base, though, is they're getting these guys that they already have, but then they're not taking that next step where they go out and actually go get some real talent to put around them. Now, you can make the argument that those prospects that you kind of mentioned earlier, you can make the argument that those are on the way and they're coming on the way and they're going to help supplant that. But you would like to kind of create that Tampa Bay Rays model that I think all of these low spending teams are trying to replicate, where they can trade some of these guys, continue to just force feed prospects through their system and still find a way to be competitive. Now, obviously, it didn't happen that way in 2024, but for the Pirates, I think that's what a lot of their fans want, is they're saying, okay, well, you're extending the guys that are here. Let's add to it. I think that's the biggest battle right now.
Got it. No, I get it. And O'Neal Cruz, too. I mean, he's something else out there as well. Yeah. I think at the end of the day, winning solves everything. And both organizations for the last 3 years have not won whatsoever. A lot of talk has been with regard to floor cap and see if that is a potential solution to both teams' problems. Up next. Today's episode is brought to you in part by FanDuel. When I personally look at a sports book, there are two things that are most important to me. Is it easy to deposit? And more importantly, is it easy to withdraw? FanDuel checks both boxes for me. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Because right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Major League Baseball does not have anything really as far as a minimum salary, right? The floor cap kind of plays into that. Actually, it's not even real, right? The only thing I'm talking about and what the A's right now are going through is the revenue sharing, right? You have to, whatever you're getting from the revenue sharing, you have to spend on the team, or MLB is going to file a grievance. So while the A's seem like they have made a splash this offseason and have made some moves, which they have, there's been a hidden agenda behind that, right? They have to get to $105 million in order to fully participate in the revenue sharing. Hence, paying for Severino 3 years, $67 million. They just picked up Jeffrey Springs from Tampa Bay and took on his $10.5 million contract, and they still have another $16 million to go in order to get to where they need to be. And also obviously, given that they're playing in Sacramento in a minor league park, they got to overplay, right? So if the going rate for somebody is 2 years and $30 million, they're going to have to go like 3 years and 50 in order to get that player over to their respective team. Do you think that is something MLB should implement? I mean, they are doing a lot with regard to trying to even the playing field. The competitive balance pick each team gets, and that's the only thing I didn't like about that Jeffrey Springs trade is we're giving up a pick on that. It's basically like an additional late first round pick or an early second round pick or late second round or early third, depending on how you want to look at it. But that's a big deal. Do you think that if the Pirates had something, if they were actually spending, that would equal attendance?
Depending on where it's at. So I brought this up to you before we started, and I brought this up to a lot of fans because fans from the Pirates right now have just kind of pointed at the A's and said, okay, well, look what they're doing. They're signing Luis Severino to all this money. They're taking on Jeffrey Springs for all this money. Why can't Bob Nutting do it? Why can't the Pirates do it? Nobody's saying they can't. Nobody's saying they won't. It's just a matter of the two sides of the pendulum here. On the one side, and this is no shot at the A's at all, do you want to spend your money on guys that, as you mentioned, could be overpays because of where you're playing in as a park? And that obviously all comes into account when you're signing free agents is what ballpark are you in? How much of a need are you? What do you do for this team, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Would you rather spend your money just freely and willy-nilly like we see teams in the NFL do, obviously under a salary cap system, but you see teams in the NFL do it all the time, and it rarely ever works? Or would you rather pick and prod, find some pretty good bargain deals here that end up working out better? Because I've always said the team that wins the offseason doesn't really win the offseason. It's happened once in the first time in a while, and that was when Shohei Ohtani signed with the LA Dodgers.
Yeah, right.
They won the offseason, they won the World Series.
Yeah.
But you go through history here. Like the New York Mets signed Juan Soto. So by de facto, they won the offseason, right? That doesn't mean they're going to win the World Series.
Sure.
Just because they spent all this money.
Exactly.
And that's what I want to tell people all the time is that money can equate to wins as far as where it's put, but you have to break it down with where it is going. Like, you're not going to be happy with the Pirates if they go give Paul Goldschmidt $15 million you're just not going to be happy about that at all. Yeah, they're spending money like you want them to, but they're not spending it where you want them to at all. And for the A's fans, I think you kind of probably feel the same way with the Severino thing. Like, yeah, Severino's a real pitcher. Yeah, he's a really good player. Is that the kind of contract you expected to give to him?
Right. No, I hear you. I think with the A's situation, they just didn't have much options. You have to they needed help on the pitching side, that's for sure, right? Who are you going to get? Right now, the A's are in a situation where it's damned if you do and damned if you don't. If they don't spend any money and they don't sign a guy like Severino, it's like, well, shoot, hey, ownership doesn't spend. They do sign a guy like Severino. You overpaid for him, which we did. Absolutely, 100%. I mean, compared to what other teams can spend. As far as, I look at the A's situation, as I was saying before. As far as signing free agents, as far as spending money, and you said it, spending to spend does not equate to winning. Mm-hmm. Spending on the right guys do. A's fans have complained for years that they don't spend, which is true. With that being said, that argument cannot be used as far as attendance because the A's have won. Only 5 teams have made the postseason more times than the A's have since the year 2000. I mean, they've been good. And a lot of it has come from the draft, right? Mm-hmm. Everyone talks about the Moneyball teams and Moneyball did this, Moneyball did that. Well, hey, three of their starters on that team were top 10 picks. Mm-hmm. Barry Cito was the number 7, I believe, overall. I think Chavez was 10. Mulder was the number 2 overall. Tim Hudson was the SEC Player of the Year. I mean, you guys got a kid out of Georgia, I believe, Tamar Johnson, who's expected to be called up this year, shortstop. Yep. So spending just to spend doesn't make sense because it does not give these kids an opportunity to play. I don't know. I'm at again, looking at the Pirates winning versus attendance, it doesn't add up. The highest they've been with regard to attendance is 15th out of 30. And those were the years they were winning. And the A's have not been in the upper half of Major League Baseball for I don't know how long. I don't know. What's the reason for that, Ethan? I'd expect Pittsburgh, being the city it is, obviously knowing what a great football city it is, hockey town, so forth. The Phillies draw, but the Pirates don't draw even when they were winning.
Yeah, I think it was just kind of 2013 through 2015 was an interesting period because it was the first time in a very long time that the Pirates were a competitive team. And by competitive, I mean in the postseason. The last time that they were there was 1992. We all remember 92 with the Braves Game 7 loss. And ever since that moment, you still have a little fraction of this fan base that will always just go back to that moment as the moment that everything went to crap.
Is that right?
Barry Bonds goes, Dave Van Slyke, Bonilla goes, the whole train falls off, and then obviously you have the 20 consecutive seasons of losing seasons and all that stuff. I'll take this year for an example. I went to 15 games this year, I think. I went to a good bit of games. In April, I was at opening day. Opening day is always nuts. You're going to get that with every single team. I went to a game about 3 weeks after that, and the stadium, I would say, was about half full. I'll give people this. It was cold. It was like 40 degrees. I'll give people that. It was against the Red Sox, whatever. I was there for Paul Skeens' debut. And
that must have been electric.
It was. Yeah. And that goes straight to my point, is the city of Pittsburgh and its fans latch on to winning. That is what they do. The Penguins right now, one of the best NHL franchises in the past 20 years, are not getting great attendance right now because right now they're just a 500 team.
Sure.
That's just what they are. The Steelers get pretty good attendance all the time because they've just built that culture of winning. The Pirates have not done that. Yeah, they made the playoffs 3 times in 2013 through 2015. Since then, It's just been a rotation of, okay, well, here's Jamison Taillon, Joe Musgrove, and Josh Bell, and there they go. Are we on the same trajectory again where it's Paul Skeens, Jared Jones, O'Neal Cruz? I don't think we are. But the team at some point has to break through that barrier and supplant themselves in the postseason picture. That's when I think you'll fully start to see the fan base kind of be won over again, because they just haven't had a reason to be won over outside of, hey, we just had the rookie of the year in Paul Skeens and he's a generational pitcher and he's on our team right now. Outside of that, it's like, yeah, cool. Brian Reynolds is great. Mitch Keller is pretty cool to watch. Jared Jones is awesome. O'Neal Cruz is a StatCast demon, but none of that matters unless you're winning in the playoffs. And I think that's where you can even point at teams like Milwaukee, who have been there all the time. And I would argue their attendance probably isn't all that dandy either. It's probably better than the Pirates, but that's not saying much. So
how much has John Fisher and Bob Nutting hurt the A's and Pirates combined and respectively on their own? Let's cover that up next here on Locked On A's and Locked On Pirates. The World Series, Super Bowl, the Olympics, the world's top athletes get to play in these top level sporting events thanks to one thing: teamwork. And teamwork can also protect your financial legacy and your family's financial future. Select Quote's licensed insurance agents are the perfect teammates when shopping for customized, affordable life insurance. They can find you the right policy to keep the financial legacy safely in your family's end zone. In sports, winning is everything. That's why you always need a good strategy to keep you moving towards the goalpost. Winning strategies for life are just as important. And that's why on my team, I have life insurance through Select Quote to protect my family's legacy and my family's financial future. Get the right life insurance for you for less at selectquote.com/lockedon. Go to selectquote.com/lockedon today to get started. Ethan, sell the team campaign, hurting or helping?
Don't know if it's really doing either. I know that the people over there are very passionate about what they've done. The billboards are all over the place. And yeah, they're seen. They're invoking their right of free speech. I think it's great. I think it's awesome that they're voicing their opinion. I just don't think it's going to change much. I really don't. And I hate to say it that way, and I don't want to just rain on their parade at all. But I do think it is helping a little bit to bring awareness overall to why baseball needs something as far as the money goes to kind of even the playing field. You look at what the Dodgers have done this offseason, what they did last year. You look at the Juan Soto contract, and you look at those things. And and I always put it this way, and I want the A's fans listening to this too to kind of take this analogy into account. Imagine you put me, Booney, the Locked On Dodgers host, the Locked On Yankees host, Mets host, and let's throw somebody else in there, right? Like the Cardinals. Almost every single one of us is going to have a different view on the game of baseball because of the financials of the sport.
Sure.
And it shouldn't be that way. You look at the NFL, you could break down the NFL to this team is better than this team. There's nothing really stopping them from being better or being worse outside of a salary cap. You look at hockey. Hockey battled the same thing for a very long time. And you could thank the LA Kings and the New York Rangers for that when they were spending money all over the place to get the best in the game. And then they had to shut the league down in 94 and 95. You look at the NBA. Who knows if they even have a salary cap, but they say they do. But it's supposed to constrain things. MLB just doesn't have any rules to this. There's no guardrails to it at all. And that's where you're starting to see even teams like St. Louis and Atlanta and Houston teams that we would consider, Booney, I would say pretty good teams that have, won the World Series
Right.
like very recently that had no chance in hell to get Juan Soto. I mean, they couldn't even fathom the idea of giving that much money to Juan Soto. And you're living in a different world. And I don't think it should be like that at all.
Doesn't a signing like that come with some risk as well? I mean, and if you're willing to make that sort of risk and it pays off, shouldn't you be able to cash in on it? I mean, I think it was too much money for Soto. For a guy who's an unreal hitter, best in the game, but an average fielder at best, not the greatest arm. He doesn't seem to be the best teammate. Again, speculating on that with regard to not speaking with his teammates with the Yankees at all, and his relationship with Machado and San Diego, but that's complete speculation. I don't know. If when I saw the signing for Soto, the last thing I ever thought was it was unfair. I was like, damn, it's a lot. You better be more than a premier walker and a premier gap-to-gap hitter who hits 30, 35 home runs.
Yeah. And you're looking at it too. I mean, how much money have the Pirates and the A's even spent on payroll in the last decade? Does it even amount to that number?
Not even close.
And I'm even throwing it out there. Does it even amount to that number combined?
I don't think so. I think the A's, if I was just again, I think the A's are at around decade, maybe 350 million, maybe.
Yeah. And that's where I think the divide and this whole sell the team thing comes in, is you look at John Fisher and you look at Bob Nutting and you say, okay, yeah, these guys are pretty wealthy people. That's why they own a baseball team. They own a professional United States sports franchise. They have money. They do. So what's stopping them? There's a lot of different things that could stop them, and me and Booney could probably go on this for hours. But at the end of the day, baseball at some point to me just has to put rules in place for this. Now, don't get me wrong either, and I think this might be a great endpoint too. I'm happy for Juan Soto. If you can have a team willingly tell you, put pen to paper, and you get $765 million, folks, there's not too many people on this planet that are going to say no. And if they do, they probably need to be admitted into a psych ward. I'm just going to be honest with you. But at the same time, you can be happy for Juan Soto and say that it sucks for baseball. Same thing with what the Dodgers are doing. Be happy for Blake Snell that he got all that money from the LA Dodgers. Be happy that Shohei Ohtani got all that money from them last offseason. But also recognize that for all 30 teams as a whole, it is a problem. And that's where you hear A's fans begging for an owner like Steve Cohen, begging for an owner like the Dodgers have. Even Anthopoulos out there in Atlanta and the GM and the way he does things. Teams like Pittsburgh and Oakland, and I'm going to say Oakland all the time. It's going to take a while. But teams beg for this. Like, Pirates fans have even called for Elon Musk to buy the team. They've called for Mark Cuban to buy the team for years because these are guys that are not afraid to spend their mony. And that's what baseball needs if you're not going to have a salary cap.
You mentioned Steve Cohen. Good call on that. But let's talk about the Mets. The Mets, for example, snuck into the playoffs last year as a 6th seed. Snuck in on literally the last day of the season. And they had a hell of a playoff run.
Yes, they did.
They don't have that playoff run. We're talking about them signing every wrong free agent.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? The margin for error is so darn close. I don't know if the model of just spending to spend and spend and spend. If I'm an owner of a team, it's something I would not do. Because it just may not make sense.
Mm-hmm.
Question. Lease is up on PNC in 2030. Is there any chance that Nutting moves him?
I don't
Similar to what the A's did.
I don't think so. You've had people bring up Nashville and bring up all these. I think that there's too much history rooted into the city of Pittsburgh and the Pirates. There just is. I mean, Clemente, Parker, Stargell, Mazeroski, Wagner. I mean, there's too much rooted in there for me to see them actually do it, which is why I was still shocked that the A's did, because there was just so much with Oakland in that team that it was just so synonymous with that team that I don't think the Pirates would go as far as to say, yeah, we're going to move, because a lot of people thought that was what's going to happen when Three Rivers was done, is that the Pirates would move on and go somewhere else, and they stayed, and they built this beautiful ballpark to stay. So I do think that they're going to stay for the long haul. I wouldn't see any reason why they would leave, outside of the fact that they just find something better, and I just don't think you will.
You got 3 top-end starters if Keller returns to any type of form he was before, in Skeens, Keller, and Jones. What's your predictions for the Pirates next year?
They're going to compete for that division because it's very wide open, and the other teams in the division are very confusing right now because the Brewers lost Williams and Adames. Mm-hmm. The Cubs lose Bellinger, but add Tucker, but don't really do anything else. The Cardinals are losing Goldschmidt and Arenado eventually. And then the Reds are a lot like the Pirates, where they're very young and have very similar needs and just need to push over the hump. Yeah. So I find it very hard that any of those teams are just going to be either bottom of the barrel or run away with the division again, like we've seen Milwaukee do. So I do think it's a competing year for this team, and it has to be, or else you're going to see the general manager and the manager out the door. I just really think that.
Yeah. You like Shelton?
We'll just let my silence speak, Booney. We'll let my silence speak on that one.
It is. Everyone's been waiting. Is O'Neal Cruz going to have a breakout year?
Yes, I think he already kind of did. I think he already kind of did in 2024. I think center field suits him way better than shortstop. He has a potential to be a 30-30 guy.
I agree.
This year.
I don't even think saying 40-40 is out of the question either. You know, I mean, when it happens it might be a question, but I wouldn't say that's a ridiculous statement either.
No. And we'll take baby steps on it, though. We'll go from 30-30 to 40-40. Now, if he does go 40-40, yeah, I mean, you'll see me lose my mind. But we'll take baby steps here in Pittsburgh.
I hear you. Let me wrap this up here, Ethan. Thank you for making Locked On A's and Thank you for making Locked On A's and Locked On Pirates your first listen today. For your second listen, find Locked On MLB. Baseball guru Sully brings a daily blend of humor and baseball, keeping you updated on every rumor and story throughout the offseason. Find Locked On MLB on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcasts. Ethan, hey, thanks for joining, brother. I really, really appreciate it. Enjoyed the conversation, my friend.
Yeah, of course. No problem.
All right, man.